Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Datu's Corner. I'm your host, Datu Tim. Today's topic: are you doing functional or fantasy martial arts? This is going to be an interesting topic to say the least. And, you know, for those who just tuned in here, give me a holler. I'd like to see who's here. And let's get into it. Now, I feel kind of hypocritical talking about fantasy martial arts when I just got a new toy came in through the door. So I want to talk to you about this real quick. So Vulpes Blades set up a booth at our camp this year. And hopefully, if everything goes right, they'll be at the August Memorial Camp. And, well, this is what I was given for setting things up. So I will be doing a review on this in the future. And when I do this, it wasn't a gift. It was an exchange of things. Hey there, Mr. User. I don't know who you are because it never tells me who you are. But this is from, I think, Zombie Instruments. This is the simulator, the replica, which I've had in my hands, and if it's the blade, I think it is. The real version of this, they did a whole video on trying to destroy this. So I really wanted a two-handed weapon to practice our Dos Manos program with, and unfortunately, I have yet to find a FMA weapon that falls into the category that I have that feel for. So I'll be talking to Vulpes about designing something two-handed with a Filipino flair to it, inspired. But I do love Dos Manos material, the two-handed systems for heavier weapons. Good morning, Nathan. I'm glad you're able to join us this week. Actually got some good news. Nathan, you owe me something. You owe me some promotional logos and stuff. So, and what am I talking about? I'm going to share that with everybody right now. So we're getting to that point right now where we're beginning to look in our rearview mirror. Now, when I say that, I'm looking in my rearview mirror and leaving COVID behind, but I'm still watching it because you never know if it's going to sneak back up. Morning, Mr. Mason. So, but I've already got a bunch of events scheduled for that. I'm back on the road teaching. So if anyone's interested in if you go to datuhartman.com, you'll see my seminars that are up and running. I've got some more I'm going to be announcing. And the one I'm going to announce right now, it's crazy, I do stuff a year in advance. The one I'm going to announce right now is the Can-Am / Great Lakes FMA Summit. This is maybe the third one we've done, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm going to have, we're going to have several people teaching there, and Nathan is one of them. Another one is Tuhan Jack Latour. We're also going to have Tony DeSaro representing Serrata. And I didn't put my phones on vibrate, so I'm taking care of that right now. And then Nathan's going to be doing some stuff. I'm feeling on the Silat side for some of it, but I want to talk to Nathan more about that. See what he's got. He's got a very diverse martial art background. He even does modern Arnis, but he hasn't done it with us, so I have to convince him to come to the dark side of the art. Morning, Jeremy. Morning. And so we've got, like I said, Tuhan Jack, not to be confused with Samurai Jack. That's a whole nother guy. Tony DeSaro, Nathan, and Dean Franco is going to be coming out and working with us. He's going to be doing a session. And then, of course, myself. This will be in Buffalo, New York, or West Seneca, a suburb of Buffalo. It'll be March 19th. It could be a 2-day event. Right now, it's currently scheduled for a 1-day event. And I'm working on getting a special guest. And that's all I'm willing to say about that at the moment. I'm hoping to have some pretty cool, a pretty cool special celebrity type guest to come to that event. If you're interested in the stuff we're doing, if you want to see what the whole organization is doing, go to worldmodernarnis.com. If you're specifically interested in my schedule, DatuHartman.com. That's where you're going to find it on the internet. Obviously, if you're on my Facebook, you're going to see other things as well, but currently there's a bunch of things scheduled for next year, and we're already booking more and more. Like I said, I'm doing the, of course it's a road trip. It's always a road trip once the border gets opened up. Thank God. Okay, and Ontario, oh my goodness, they're rocking it. So Ontario, which is the largest province in Canada, population wise. The last thing I was told by PG Craig and Craig Mason, verify this. Weren't you saying there's like 60 or 65% people have gotten at least their first vaccination up there? Or Jeremy, if you have those numbers, that'd be cool too. I think that's really badass because, that gives a chance of our border opening up, hopefully by the August Memorial Camp that we're doing. For those who are unaware, my teacher, the late Grandmaster Remy Amador Presas, passed away 20 years ago this year, the 28th of August. And that weekend, we are running a memorial camp to pay homage to him. And, yep, that is correct. So we're going to be discussing things about that because, I've had to downsize the camp due to COVID restrictions and things have changed as far as I've got less restrictions, but I'm not going to be adding more people because you just never know what's going on. And really, I'm going to be pushing for a bigger event next year, which is the 65th anniversary of Modern Arnis' creation. So I've got next couple of years, we got a bunch of cool stuff going on. So, all right. So let's get into today's topic. And by all means, I want to hear from you. Feel free to give me shout outs where you're coming from. Right now, I'm looking at U.S. and Canada. I haven't seen my brother Joe from Austria yet. I don't see him in there. And sometimes when they're logging in, depending on how they're watching, it doesn't always show up. So if you are watching, make sure you go over to our YouTube channel, and I've got 2 of them, so either one will be fine. Tim Hartman or Datu Tim Hartman. And that's because a debacle on my end. So I'm broadcasting on both of them, but be free. One of those mornings, got up real early to take the car in, passed the inspection, which is great, but still a lack of sleep because I stay up way too late and get up way too early. But please. Oh, here we go. Oh my goodness. Mike, thanks for tuning in there. Plymouth, UK. So, did we meet at the World Championships? Because I've been to Plymouth. The 2 places in England I've been to, Exeter and Plymouth. Plymouth was 2000. I was teaching at the AKKS Speakman Kempo Karate organization, basically. Their European Championship. I was a guest instructor. And for some reason, everyone thinks I'm a Kempo person. I'm not, but I have a lot of Kempo friends. So, guilty by association. Could be worse people to hang with. I like Kempo people. They're not uptight. All right. Yes. And we did the Viking camp in Sweden. Yep. Yeah. So I was, good deal, Mike. All right. So if you haven't already, please go to the YouTube channel, subscribe, hit the notification button, and feel free to share any or all these videos that I've been putting out wherever you feel appropriate. This Wednesday, the next Modern Arnis Minute drops, and it's going to be about single Sinwali application drill and an explanation. There's been a little discussion on the net as of late, and a video that had less than stellar performance people are critiquing. And I'm not running to defend the person who put the video up. They're a big boy. They can handle it themselves. But anything that puts modern Arnis in a negative light, I like to do videos. That's actually what all of the modern Arnis minutes are. If you look at them, you'll see weird stuff that's out there and without explanations. So I try to do that. And my brother from another mother, Master Jose Torres from Jersey. Well, I'm glad you joined in. Let me know when you wanted me to pop in on your show, because I know we talked about that, my friend. Master Torres has a show. Please feel free to share the information on it. I'll put it up here so people can see it. He's got I'm not sure if it's weekly, but he has a podcast, and he's being featured in a 50 days or 51 days of martial arts, where this guy's traveling the country and he's doing a documentary on it. And Master Torres' school is one of the schools that shows up there. Mr. Wolf, how are we doing? Okay, so let's get into it. Talked about a lot of things, but let's get in the core of what we're doing. 52 Masters. There we go. 52 Masters. That's the documentary or the thing. Check that out. Master Torres is part of it, along with a whole bunch of other people. Now, is your martial arts functional or fantasy? Now, before we get into that, I just want to say this. I mean, I have no problem. I mean, this is all part of the conversation. I have no problem with what you teach. I don't care if it's fantasy based, if it's functional. Functional is a matter of opinion, depending on what you're talking about. Are you doing historical martial arts? Are you doing modern martial arts? Okay, so let's get into it. So the big thing here is, to me, as long as you're telling your clientele what you're teaching them, that's all that matters. As long as they understand the context of that. Because the problem we run into is, I think sometimes people talk about combat or martial arts and they don't put it in proper context. And what I'm looking for martial arts may be different than my clientele. If people are coming to you for self-defense and you're giving them fantasy, you're jeopardizing their safety. Okay. Everything that we do in martial arts doesn't have to work. I've heard that. You're right. Martial arts falls into three categories here. It's martial art, martial sport, martial combat. My other 3x3 matrix is fitness, form, and function. Fitness, physical attributes; form, technical precision; function, combatives. When we're talking about combatives, are we talking about modern day combatives, or are we talking about historical combatives? Let's give an example of that. Fencing. How practical is fencing these days? Okay. I've done fencing as a historical research for my art. The Spaniards occupied the Philippines for 400 years, and I went and got into fencing, medieval style fencing. I've done a little HEMA, and I've done mostly the SCA, which was you dressed up like the Three Musketeers. I did a weapon called which I have one around here somewhere, actually. I'm going to talk, and hopefully you can hear me. So I did this for a couple of years. And the SCA did a weapon set where they did they called it the Schlager. I don't know the technical term. I just know the term that they were using when for the weapon class. So you did foil or epee, which I felt was way too wimpy for me. And then you had this blade. So now evidently they've gone to it full time. So this is a theatrical blade. It actually has an edge. You put a rubber tip on the end, and we'll duct tape it on there. But the nice thing about this, the difference between this and an epee and a foil, an epee is basically a square. A foil is basically a square, and an epee is basically a triangle. So you don't get a specific blade. Now this one, you've got people can strike inside of here. You've got the quillions that you can lock up weapons with. And if you hit with the flat of the blade, that doesn't do anything. So you would have a marshal. Now it was mostly honor system, but still, I liked working with that HEMA, historical European martial arts. They do a lot of fighting. I've actually, so I do the saber fighting from um, the Saber Combat League. So I do the lightsaber fighting. Okay, I bought lightsabers to do demos here, and then they offered an opportunity to do fighting, and it gives me a venue to do two-handed weapons. Well, a lot of those guys also do HEMA. So on my last trip down there, they put a steel sword in my hand. I got to fight with a steel sword. I was so jacked up. I actually just reached out to them recently. This is all before COVID. So I was doing saber, as in the curved metal saber, and a lot of stuff I was able to do from my Filipino arts were fine. I was doing checking. I was butt striking. I wasn't actually hitting. We were just do the motion there. That being said, I mean, what's the odds on me sword fighting like that in the streets? Now, combat is going to be relative to where you are in the world. Second time I taught in Barbados, we did a little tour of all the schools. First time was a festival. Second time we went school hopping, and lo and behold, I'm teaching stick work, block, grab, hit. We're grabbing the stick, and a woman asked me, "Well, what if it's a cutlass?" I'm thinking, cutlass? What the hell is this? Pirates of the Caribbean? Well, for those who don't know, Barbados is in the Caribbean, so yes, it was. They don't go walking around with cutlasses. That's what they call their machetes down there. And it's an agricultural-based society down there. One of the biggest exports or products is sugarcane for rum and molasses and other stuff. So you could have people walking around with machetes all the time. In the States, not so much, maybe in certain regions, but, let me see here. Do you believe that there's a functional? Yeah, there is a parallel. I think there's, my big issue isn't what we do. It's the content. I mean, I do a lot of, I got to put that down because once again, I feel hypocritical carrying my zombie slayer weapon, which is, it's a real weapon. They actually make the weapon as a sharp blade, but it's not something I carry around with me every day, just on Tuesdays. My issues, I've got lots of them. When we train as a martial artist, we're 1% of the population. We're less than that. And who knows what it's going to be after COVID, because wait for it, 40% of all schools closed down permanently. 40% shut down. Okay. So, that's not cool. That's not cool at all. So what's going to happen to our future? What's our percentages? I think they're going to drop for a while. Now, I will say this, I'm doing better numbers now post-COVID than pre-COVID. That being said, I took a huge hit during the lockdown, and there's students I'll never get back again. And part of it is the virtual seminars are doing a big thing for me, but I've got more people coming in. And as a martial artist, if you're able to survive, now's the good time because people are looking for activities. And the nice thing about martial arts, we don't have seasons. People can start immediately versus when you're doing team sports, you have to have another team. You have to have facilities to train out. I mean, I've got all my facilities, so it's not a big deal. But, these are still rough. But anyways, I digress. With those numbers, let's say the numbers stay the same, even with the loss of schools. It's less than 1%, but we'll round up. So that's 1 in 100. So a lot of times I see people training martial arts, and they'll say, all right, when you do the backwards throw or Kota Geish, the person can reverse you this way. They can counter this, that, or the other, blah, 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 blah. Wrong. I will go as far as saying bullshit. Why would I say that? People can counter that all the time. Yeah, but who's that? The other trained martial artists. If we are talking about training people legitimate, practical martial arts, which I think all martial arts has the capability of doing that. The word of that is capability. We need to talk about realistic scenarios. So I watch videos of people doing counters to counters to counters. And I train my Balintwalk. I love my Balintwalk. But what's Balintwalk? Balintwalk is two trained fighters going at it. What are the odds? Most of the material in Balintwalk cannot be used in a real life situation. But if you go to the fundamentals, which are your angles of attack, those apply. Providing you are in an armed encounter. Now, when I say this, let's remember this. So for those who don't know, I've been doing Balintwalk for over 20 years. I was a direct student of the late Grandmaster Ted Buat, who used to teach for Anchon Bakan, the founder of Balintwalk. I love my Balintwalk, and for training attributes, it's great. But I've had people, like I said, I do a backwards throw, and I'm going to step over, do a control, and then the person sits there, and they say, well, you can reach up and do this and reach up and do that. And I think that's the problem as martial artists. What do we do at times? We take a technique, and we look how to counter it. And I think it's a great exercise to plug the holes. So when I do reversals in my moves, it's not about reversing the move. It's showing the weakness in the main move and how we can tighten it up to make a smaller window of opportunity. So for those who have anybody out there who does any kind of grappling arts, any people do jiu-jitsu or judo, or I know Nathan's done the silat, so there's a lot of throws in that. So if you do arts with throws in it, I'd like to hear from you. Just give me Sambo. Very good, Dustin. Very good. I hope you're doing well. Okay. And yes, Nathan. Yep, Nathan. So here's the question. If you did I think we all know what a hip throw is. I'm assuming we all know what a hip throw is, where we take someone and we throw them over our hip and drop them on concrete. Catch wrestling, very good, very good. So if you did a hip throw to somebody who's never trained before, what are the odds on them reversing you, let alone getting back up after you've dropped them on concrete? There's the question. Who feels if they did and I call the non-trained combatants out there civilians. We're all civilians, right? But still, if we took a civilian versus a martial artist and we dropped them like that, who thinks they're going to be reversed or the person's going to get back up? Slim to none. Thank you. So I'll throw your soul into next week. Well, don't throw me. I need my soul. I'm also got a little girth, so it might be a little harder. We're going to call it a lower center of gravity. Kempo, we'd call it backup mass. Everyone else might just call fat. Okay. Yep. All right. Sure. Yep. So now, since this is Datu's Corner, a lot of the people tuning in have some kind of connection to me, and a lot of that's mostly through Filipino martial arts. We have to let our people understand, if they're coming for self-defense, we have to put in the proper context of what is good for skill development, what is good for position recognition, as well as a study of movement. And then the last thing is, what are your combatives? And real combatives. I was at the Gathering, which is an event that Bruce Jutnick puts on out in two places. This year it's going to be Reno. It's been in Sacramento in the past. So I'll be one of the presenters there. And I was teamed up with a guy who did a few arts, including Doce Pares. but that wasn't his main art. And he's talking about, in the streets, you got to watch out because you're going to go on today and they're going to block here. So go here, check, and then they retrap it here and all this other stuff. I'm thinking, who the hell are you fighting? I mean, I've been in many hand-to-hand encounters. I was forced to defend myself. I don't like saying fights. A fight, in my mindset, means I agreed to it. I was never a willing participant in a hand-to-hand encounter. I've been forced to defend myself. I've been 1-on-1, 2-on-1, 9-on-1. Unfortunately, I was the 1, not the 9 or the 2. I win by surviving. I don't win by beating the crap out of them because it doesn't work that way. And, the old adage, who wins a fight? No one. I remember the quote-unquote fights that I won felt a hell of a lot like the ones that I lost. I've been grabbed by one and punched by another. I've been fighting one, and then the guy's brother hits me in the back of the head when I'm not looking. So I've had real life encounters throughout my life. And I hear this stuff about, the person's going to do X, Y, and Z, and they're, and I think we just follow. I mean, I love doing my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I've been doing that for years. I'm still a white belt. There's a reason why. I get to a point, and then all of a sudden I get sidetracked by something else. My seminar career starts kicking up again, or the person I train with is a teacher in Canada. So right now the border's been shut down for a year, but I have to work around his schedule. And then all of a sudden when he's free in the summer, I might be traveling like there's no tomorrow, and vice versa. So, but when I'm doing the grappling thing, I love listening to these people talk about all these counters, and they're talking about this from a sport aspect, and like, well, you don't do this, you don't do that because of X, Y, and Z. And I remember I was doing some, a bunch of us are grappling together, so it's hybrid grappling. You got the BJJ, but which really is the ground element of judo, and I got a couple judokas with us, and we're doing, I think it was Valley Throw or something. And the person puts me in the headlock. I grab their leg and smack down. And a couple of the guys are giving me grief. Well, you really should do it this way. Da, 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 da. And then the old man, Eric Joseph, goes up. He's like the Moses of grappling in the air. He goes, no. Tim's doing it perfectly. Well, what do you mean? I go, you're thinking about the sport. And Tim's thinking about bashing your head on the ground and concrete. Oh, I never thought of it that way, because once again, you're thinking of it a way based on the context you're doing at the moment. And what do people usually learn judo and now Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as? Most people are learning it as a sport. So you think about sport rules, and same with sambo. I mean, there is the combat sambo, but there's also the sport sambo. I mean, any martial art that you do the sport element of, you start thinking in that context. But is that going to be realistic martial arts? And there's plenty of things, there's 3 circles, the 3x3 matrix: fitness, form, and function. And there's an overlap. They will overlap each other. Some moves that we can do, like, okay, what'll work in everything? Well, the angles, like for sticks, the angles of attack work in everything, because whether you're armed or not, the lines of attack are always the lines of attack. So material like that will always work. But now, when we're talking about certain reversals and stuff, when we're talking about reversals, usually the reversals are based on this being a trained opponent. Well, most of the stuff is not against a trained opponent. I mean, most of the encounters. I mean, Professor did the brace block. So he took the stick and he reinforced it. Now there's a bunch of reasons why you could or would do this. I also do the dos manos block. Okay. Now, I've heard people, Miguel from IFMA Supply, how you doing, brother? Hey, you're looking for a good Kamagong, this is the guy you talk to. But we'll talk about that later. I'm thinking about real weapons. Some people say, well, why would you change Filipino martial arts? It's perfect the way it is. No, it's not. The concepts work, but when you transplant things, we talked about this Americanized our FMA the other way. What did we talk about? We talked about when we train martial arts they are affected by the people doing it, the geography they're doing it in, and the climate. So things that you would do, like, okay, so I was given this last time I was in Denmark. This is a fish knife. You would think it's Filipino, but it's just a fish knife that they use. So if someone's wearing a leather jacket and I'm cutting, this is not going to do very well. Now, it got the pointy, it's just not the slashy. So if this is the tool I have, which is kind of similar to a karambit, but let's say I had this, because of what they're wearing, I might not be able to do all my material. We had an expired police vest in here doing some experiments. A few of my guys are law enforcement, so we brought the vest in, and I took my everyday knife, which is my Columbia River. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, Columbia River. This is my EDC. Actually, this is my EDC, my everyday carry. But this is the tool I carry in my knife, my pocket. It fits my hand well. I like this thumb grip there. And just this really, I got a big hand. I'm sorry. I need a big knife. Like guys with big feet. You know what they say? Big shoes. All right. So if I'm using this on somebody in Buffalo, the mainland, where people might be wearing leather jackets because of the weather, or let's say they're riding a bike, it's protective gear. This may not go through in the cutting methodology. So I may have to do more stabby to penetrate. Right there, like when you're in the Philippines, they're wearing hardly any clothing. It's easy for me to just get it on a body part and cut someone over. Go open. But you put a hoodie on, this might not have the mass to cut through it, let alone normal. So what we want to do is think about how we change our techniques and our tactics to affect our environment. So when Professor moved to the States, there's a couple things he was dealing with that they didn't deal in the Philippines. And that's heavier weapons, okay? Much, much heavier weapons. Baseball bats, axe handles, shovels, 2x4s. So when we filmed the documentary was, and of course I can't find it here, it's Fighting Sticks of Arnis, which actually, if you look at the spine, this is Fighting Sticks of Modern Arnis, because that was the original name. And I'm going to look this up. And which I happen to have a bunch here. It's interesting. Can't multitask. It's my dyslexia gets in my way. We talked about this before. I'm gonna images. All right. You get a chance. I get nothing out of this other than that I'm in the documentary. So, but I'm going to share this. This is a phenomenal documentary, and it's $18 to $20. You can do the DVD, which probably makes it $20, and then there's the digital download, which is probably $18. So Empty Mind Fields does a phenomenal job, absolutely phenomenal job. A lot of top people are there, including this clown right here, the one that's talking. And this is my trip of the Philippines. Okay, traveling around the Philippines, following Datu Tim and his merry little band of henchmen, going around, doing different things, training, talking to different martial suppliers and stuff along those lines. But while we were filming that, we walked back to the hotel and a street fight broke out. And there's like 20, 30 people involved, and nobody was doing any Filipino martial arts. There were a bunch of Filipinos trying to hurt each other. It was very martial, but people were picking up bricks and stones and stuff of that nature. I've seen footage from the Philippines of people out, non-combatants fighting in the streets of the Philippines. Technique-wise, it was nothing. Absolutely nothing. Now, their weapons and things may have changed, the outcome because they're using bolos or machetes or whatever, fill in the blank. But there was none of this high-end training material. The minority of the people in the Philippines do Filipino martial arts. A lot of them do karate, taekwondo, and even then, it's still a minority of the culture. And when they train, the big thing is the academic. Everyone's training it in the schools. And the scholastic program is about the sport, which means they're just playing tag with a stick and working forms, and a lot of them are made up. And that's just what it is. I was going to go visit a couple of the teams, and then they told us, you're welcome to come, but if you're looking to train material, we can't help you with that. If anything, you could teach us because all we do is the sport. Puts things in context. So getting back to when Professor came over here, it wasn't these light sticks, it was 2x4s. And when he was teaching students and they were dealing with heavier weapons, an unbraced block to come and hit the person. Remember when Abon did his video about training modern Arnis in the 70s and the 90s, he said even in the Philippines, they did the brace block because it was a scholastic program. They're teaching in the school systems. So you got to do stuff that makes sense. And this is safer than this. But it's not about stick dueling. It was about self-defense using Filipino concepts. I'm doing my dos manos with my sticks because I will bring out a baseball bat, an axe handle, and now my Volpus zombie weapon, which I'm looking forward to test this out. I'm really looking forward to it. And this thing's got some weight to it, let me tell you. So, and there I drop it on the floor. I'm stress testing it. There you go. So, I'm looking at my other screen over here to see how that looks. Make sure that all the graphics are lined up the way it should be. Looking pretty good. Okay, so I'm glad you like that, Jeff. Now, I'm not telling anyone. Like I said, I train it all. I train it for the sport. I train it for combat. I train physical drills for development. I talk about study of movement. I mean, a lot of the stuff that I teach in class, if you look at it, is not geared for the street. And I'm upfront about it. And that's my pet peeve because, I'll see people doing all this stuff for, I do the Lameco stalemates just like everyone else does. You got my knife, I got your knife. We go under and do all this stuff. And I see people training it and they're really pushing this. And they're pushing it against each other, as in they're training against another trained martial artist. And I've got no problem with that as far as training to a higher level of execution. But most likely it's not going to be the opponent you're dealing with. I want to train for the majority, not the minority. What do I mean by that? The most common opponent. Okay, here's the math. Prior to COVID, 1%, less than 1% of the population does martial arts, but we're going to round it up. And 1% of them does Filipino martial arts. So the odds are, wait for it, here we go, 1 in 10,000. The Filipino martial artist is 1 in 10,000. So why would I train for them first? Okay, like I said, I love my Balintuag, but most of it's not realistic. I love a lot of what I do. I love when I do tappy and modern Arnis, I love it. Guess what? Not practical. And especially when I see some of the people teaching the material, it drives me crazy because they're just putting hand baits out where they're here versus trying to hit somebody. When you you'll understand if you get a chance. Watch watch this Wednesday when I do the single Sinwali application drill. Remy did a drill where you did single Sinwali, and you would capture things from there. And he actually would teach us stick techniques from there usually because, well, we were in the airport and we didn't have sticks. Okay. I'm glad you like it, Paulo. Like I said, I don't want to. I'm going to be very upfront. I do all the different training, but the thing that what I'm saying is, when we train it, we just have to make sure that we're telling people what they're actually doing, because people are trusting us with their safety. And the idea of disarm reversals, I mean, it's ridiculous. If someone's going to have the skill set to disarm me, they probably got it off. I would have to, so we practice disarm reversals, and I love doing it, and I'll talk why in a moment. I love doing the disarms, and if someone was able to figure out how to, we go back and do the reversals, but if I swing a stick at somebody and they disarm me or try to disarm me, I doubt very much that I'd be able to disarm them in that short period of time. Why? One, I would have to be able to recognize that disarm, and I may not have done the disarm that they're doing against me. Two, in a fraction of a second, come up with the corresponding response. What are the odds on that? I mean, come on. I've was talking about the forms with somebody, and the professor taught the forms with brace blocking because they're good. And we're not going to get into all this stuff. The person was saying, well, I don't do the brace block because they're easy to defeat. They're just reference points. Easy to defeat. I mean, come on, how asinine is that comment? A form, you're just taking things out of context. I mean, like, I do the dos manos blocking, and if you sit there and say, well, that's easy to defeat. Well, since I don't have my baseball bat with me and I have my Vulpes blade right now, let's see you do an unbraced block against this. And I'm not talking a deflection. The word is block. I'm going to swing through you where you cannot stop it. You cannot deflect it. You're not going to be able to. And I want to see you stop this thing with an unbraced block. Now, there might be a couple people out there that can do it, but here's the other side. Can your students? That's the question. Can your students do this? And that's what I'm a professional instructor. And even if I wasn't professional, I'm teaching people. If I'm teaching people and they're trusting me with their safety, I'm not going to portray that trust. And I want to teach them realistic responses, things that are going to be higher probability. Morning, Mike. How you doing? Hope all things well out in Michigan. Jeff, are you still in Michigan or are you down in Florida at the moment? And is it getting any better there? I know Paulo's up in Ontario, and we started earlier today saying how things are getting better up there. And I'm hoping that we're going to look at the border opening, but Okay, so Romeo, let's see here. Disarms are last online, and sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. Okay, so let me. Okay, that's good to hear. So let's talk about this one right here. Disarms. I'm going to tell you about my approach to it. And it's just the way I believe. And if people believe otherwise, that's their right. I'm not going to say you're wrong. You just have a different opinion than me. That's it. And our opinions are based on our knowledge and our skill set and our experiences, all this stuff. So because when I sit there and when people show me stuff, I go, yeah, I get what you're doing. I don't like that. Why? Because I can't do that. It might be beyond my skill set. It might be like, hey, I'd love to be able to do that, but my skill set doesn't allow me to. So that might not be a material for me, because maybe like high kick. I love capoeira. I absolutely adore capoeira. My body is not made for capoeira. And just the athleticism alone of being able to do that. Oh my God, that would be amazing. And how it would affect the rest of my martial arts. And I've seen some top tier capoeiristas or whatever I don't know how you call it, but players, and they're amazing. And you know what? I could do that. I know I could do that. but I'd have to sacrifice everything I'm doing now. I mean, we could all do this. Like, here's the thing. I don't think there's anything we can't do. It's just that, well, do people have the commitment to get there? That's where the question is. Now, let's talk about this with the disarms. Personally, I don't like disarms. I don't like the idea of stick-on-stick disarms. I really question how they would really work. Where I like them is I like using the stick-on-stick disarms and using them as a template to teach unarmed disarms. And I like applying the stick disarms in the open hand component. Now, and I'm talking about realistic, not dueling. And even then, when we're sparring, if we're talking a sparring context, it only is going to happen based on the level of commitment. And if people are just trying to chip away at you, it limits the certain responses you go. So, I got something from Paulo here. Let's do this. On disarms, 1, the best disarm is a punch to the face. Amen. 2, they happen accidentally, if not intent. Okay. And 3, the best way to train is from clinch fighting drills. Really deep connectivity. Yep. There is way too much space in the ranges. Yep. I would agree with that. I do the disarms as it's a study of movement. And like I said, to me, this disarms are for me to get to that unarmed element of this. Learning to bridge that gap. I mean, person's got a weapon, you got to get in on them. So I think when they're unarmed, they're willing to commit more. Stick on stick, the disarms I do are pretty much impact base, hitting the arms, hitting the wrists, the hands, stuff of that nature. And as Paulo said, I have done our disarms. I've done like our number 4 thumb lock disarm. I was able to pull that off from a clinch situation. It didn't happen where someone swung and I did this. Like I said, if the person doesn't commit, if they don't give you the energy, there's only so much you can do. I tell people when we're working certain material, there needs to be a level of commitment. And sometimes I can make up the difference of the lack of commitment of my opponent. But sometimes I can't. So, I mean, you need that level. The person's got to come and be trying to hit you. And if they're not, it's not going to work. Especially when we're both armed. Oh, my God. Everyone's afraid of getting hit. And I want to say, once you start getting hit, you're apprehensive. You want to make sure you don't go in when you're not, when it's best, you want to go in, So it definitely changes the thing. So, once again, I really don't care about the fantasy part of our training. It's when I sit there, and fantasy is too strong of a word, but like, I love Hubud. I sort of like Hubud. Oh, I'm modernist trapping. I prefer Hubud's not bad. I do enjoy Hubud. Sombrada drills. I love doing Sinwalis and all this other stuff. And when I see people doing disarms and Sinwalis, it annoys me because they stop. They're doing the Sinwali and then they freeze for a moment for the person to do the disarm, then the second. So, I mean, that aspect, I'm thinking that they're hesitating so the person can do the disarm and then they're doing their follow-up shot. That I got a problem with, but there we go. Commitment. This is something I've been drilling into my students. I can't stand seeing poor aim and distancing make each other work for it. Exactly. All right. Not completely lightsaber is fan. So when I say this, I say, well, Tim, you just said you do lightsaber fighting. What's your point? The lightsabers I have, the ultra sabers, are hard blade. Actually, Paulo's done a little of that. Paulo, if you weren't wearing armor, how much could those blades hurt you for the saber fencing we do? So Paulo's done it a few times. Not with the group I do down in Ohio. He's done it with the a group in Ontario we're trying to get going prior to COVID. But and Paulo, when the border opens up, it stings. Yes, there's examples of people getting cut open because they're not wearing proper helmets and stuff. Now, I go to Columbus Saber Academy. So they do the lightsaber, but they also do the HEMA. So, hey, Paulo, if you want to come down and fight some real steel with me, let's go. I mean, not against each other, but we can do that. Let's go down, and in Columbus, we'll hit there. Broke my thumb, even with a glove on it. And sabers rule. Of course they do. They're badass. I want to be a Sith, by the way. Yep. Yes, you can. Yeah, exactly. It's a lot of fun. Okay. So what am I getting at? I don't know. These are my Monday morning rants. The big thing here is I don't care what you train as long as we're being honest with our students. And the only way to be honest with our students is to be honest with ourselves. And here's the thing. If you can't tell the truth, well, you are going to lie to everybody if you're lying to yourself. It's as simple as that. And I think we just have to assess what we're doing and in what context. Like when we take things to a higher level, okay, so I do MMA style stick fighting, Dog Brother-esque. I've done it ever before I even heard about the Dog Brothers. Live stick, minimal armor. Hell, when I started, we didn't use any armor. We didn't do headshots. We used light rattan, not the stuff I use now, and we used control. And we had a good time. And that sting, it kept us honest. And we had welt marks all over the place. And we started hitting harder because the body started getting conditioned to it. But which then eventually had unrealistic responses because we started getting conditioned. We started taking shots that we normally might not have just to pull off another shot. I don't want to train to take a shot. I want to train that if I get hit, it doesn't keep me from continuing. So I know some people train to trade blows in combative martial arts. I'm like, nope. Not that what I want. I just want to make sure I don't want to take a shot ever. But if I do get hit, that I've been conditioned enough that it doesn't shut me down right from there. That's why sparring is key for me because I think I want to teach a big chunk of, I do martial arts for fun, fitness, physical attributes. But at the bottom line, there needs to be some kind of self-defense element in there, and it's got to be realistic, okay? And half the crap we do, if not maybe more than that, maybe the majority of what we do in Filipino martial arts is unrealistic. But the benefits of the training can be very tangible and applied to realistic tactics. Let me see here. Mr. Kent, how are we doing? And what the hell is your first name? What's the T for, Kent? All right. Good rant this morning. Thank you. Students gain respect. They're not stupid. There are elements that okay, I'm trying to read your next comment while I'm reading this one. Elements I teach extremely practical, and others elements are just because I enjoy the art. Yeah, exactly. My students, which is which. Okay. Yeah, and what does T stand for? T. Kent Nelson. Fat fingers. Yeah, it's no problem. It doesn't matter. You still didn't answer my question, or is it a private thing? If I'm not allowed to know, is your name Tiberius? Are you named after Captain Kirk? Or is you named after your favorite Datu, Tim? Just joking. One of my students, Molly, her son's named after her father, Tim. Her father. So I always joke, yep, named after the Datu. And everyone laughs about, really? And everyone believes this shit. I go, it doesn't matter. The Ken Nelson. Well, nice to meet you, the. As long as it's not a they. Oh my goodness. I don't want to get on that rant. So my thought is this. We can teach our students everything and anything, but we need to be honest with them so they understand. Thomas, okay, cool. We need to be honest with them so they understand what the context of what we're doing at that moment. And a lot of times in class, they'll sit there and we'll do who buddy, trapping hands, pushing hand type mindsets. And I'll sit there and go, listen, skill development and position recognition. There you go. All right. Can this help us in the street? Oh, hell yeah. But what we're doing in this context won't, but the skill development that we get from it will. And that's what this is really about. And what are you training for? And it doesn't matter what you train for. It could be completely fantasy, or it could be period. And maybe fantasy is too strong of a word at times. Let's talk about combat. Okay, most of Filipino martial arts these days, I don't think is realistic for the street, but it was at one time. Okay, so maybe we're talking. And I'll wrap things up here. There are forms of jiu-jitsu that its material wasn't relevant for a while, and now it's coming back into play. And it's like, well, how could that be? So in the Japanese styles of jiu-jitsu, there are some throws that are done against an armored opponent. Okay, so and who's wearing armor these days? Well, hold on, we'll stop. We'll stop right there. Armored opponent, and then armored recoveries. So let's think about this. So those techniques became no longer relevant when firearms got into play. People are, it's like they started wearing less and less armor. But as technology changed, so did armor. So now body armor is all hip and back in, and people wearing a lot of armor. So now doing a throw against someone wearing body armor, or someone who's been thrown wearing armor or falls, now how to do the recovery and get into and get back up. Let's see here. What did my crib say here? I wouldn't throw out a stick on stick disarms. I didn't say I'm throwing them out. I'm saying that a lot of them don't work, not in the context that they're done. Most of the stuff that we do in martial arts, if you train for real hitting and someone does that, I could see, let me see, Professor. We used to swing a Professor and we do a hit with control, which we just swing out towards him. We might have a lot of power. Ultimately, if he didn't block, most of us knew not to hit him. And like we talk about, then there's follow through, and then Professor say, "All right, hit me with a follow through." When professors hit follow through, I would swing the follow through. Okay. Okay. Yep. Exactly. And thank you, Jeff. Yep, I did cover that. But the thing here is, I like, actually, if I'm gonna do more of the okay, I'm not gonna use this as a blade. This is my gift for those who didn't come in there, or payment for me letting people set up. If I'm gonna do something this large, I like crashing in with my dos manos when it's heavier weapons. Some of the stick on stick works because of the energy we're giving, so all right. Let me see. We have to remember that the art was meant for someone that knows nothing about swings. No, wrong. There's Remy's most of the art is training against a trained opponent. If you look at what most Filipino martial arts, including modern, but the concept is that Professor trained against untrained opponents. And thanks, Jeff. Yeah. Unfortunately, Mike, you missed a lot of stuff. So, but and that's a good thing. This is being loaded on YouTube, so you can watch it from the beginning or on Facebook. A big part of what we do is, it's based on commitment. It's all based. It's really what it boils down to. It's based on the level of commitment. And I'm assuming, Jeff, you're talking to Mike. So Mike, give him a call tonight. All right. I feel like an operator here. So any final thoughts? I'm going to wrap things up here. Questions. Hopefully I didn't get too down the rabbit hole. I will be taking a week off. We are not going to be doing You're trying to keep the country ready, and fixing big rigs. Okay, cool. So I'm taking this Friday and the following Monday off because it is Memorial Day weekend. So we will not be doing an FMA Professionals this weekend, and nor Monday will we be doing a Datu's Corner. But what I'm going to talk about is on Datu's Corner, just a couple of the things we're going to talk about in the future episode. I'm going to talk about how to use a knife as an impact tool. Well, we're going to talk about the concept of doing it. Is this a ingenious innovation or a legal liability? I'm also going to talk about training in the Philippines. Now, we talked about the necessity, but I'm also going to talk about for those who decide to go. We're going to go over on the do's and don'ts and where to go, where not to go. I've got a couple hotel names, stuff like that. How to get around while you're there. There's a few other topics here and there. On the next FMA Professionals, which will be in June, we're going to talk about developing a martial art resume for those who are teaching either seminars or have a school, how to properly do a resume to really promote what you're doing and really put it in the proper context. So let me pull up my calendar right now here. So we will not be doing, I pulled the wrong thing up, of course. We will not be doing a show the weekend. Actually, we might be. There's a chance. I got to find out on the 12th of June, we will be doing the Spring Fling. So Roel Rivera passed away, car accident, and left the family behind. He was a nice guy. He was a really nice guy. I liked him a lot. Went too soon. Simple as that. And on the 12th, we're going to be doing in the Fairfax, Virginia area, we're going to be doing a seminar, a fundraiser. I'm actually donating a full season of the Modernist University, or the whole series, as a door prize. We're not sure exactly how we're going to do that. It's in the works, but I'm going to share that here. Here's some of the instructors that will be there. No, that's not what I wanted to do. Cancel. Hold on. Share a video file. Hopefully this works. I don't know if you're going to get the audio. I never know. It's always a crapshoot with this. I'm getting better at using StreamYard, but we'll find out. Okay, so that one is it is a hybrid event. Now, there's a little miscommunication on this. I want to tell everyone. The hybrid portion of that event is the attendees. So if you can't physically show up, you can attend virtually. So that's a list of the instructors who are going to be there that's committed ahead of time. There's more that are probably going to end up teaching there. It's always been a good time down there. Like I said, this is a great cause. And that's about it. Like I said, we talked about the stuff that we did or for the future here. If you have any other suggestions for Datu's Corner, I'd love to hear about it. I'm looking for a project I'm working on. I need to find some school owners who are in a brick and mortar location teaching Filipino martial arts, preferably as the primary art. But even if it was 50-50, we're going to be doing a show with conjunction with another group out there, specifically talking about Filipino martial arts as a profession. Can it be done? Who's doing it? Where it's being done? Blah, 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 blah. It should be a good thing. We've got some good cross-pollination coming up. We're going to talk about the future of Filipino martial arts. Is it on we're looking at a couple things here, whether it's growing or is it on the edge of extinction? We'll talk about that. It depends on how you want to look at things. We've definitely been getting along together more than ever. But is that a temporary thing because of COVID? And what are the effects of COVID on the future of our industry? Maybe a few other things here and there. I can't think of anything else. Please, on the 12th is the Roel Vera benefit at the Spring Fling. On the 19th is the next phase of my Panantukan in June. July will be another Panantukan seminar. And then in August, we are doing the Remy Presas Memorial Camp, the weekend of the 27th through the 29th. That weekend literally is the 20th anniversary of his passing, and we want to pay homage to him. So that is about it. So please, everyone, as usual, please stay safe, stay sane. And I will see you all again in the future, face to face. All right. I'll see you in a couple weeks. Datu Hartman saying thank you for tuning in to Datu's Corner.